force, the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest, transforming the military veteran culture one heart at a time. One of his advocacy, no other than Mr. Daniel Faust.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me join you.
Welcome, Mr. Daniel, on Abstract Essay. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Yeah, so Daniel Faust, I'm a veteran, about 25 years of service, United States Air Force, 12 years active, about 13 to 14 reserve total, just recently retired. And my goal is to help veterans transition and their middle spouse community transform. So that is our goal and our heart, to take people from control to surrender, which we'll be talking about today.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Daniel. Thank you. And today let's talk about from control to surrender. What happens when strength is not enough? Okay, let's start with the crisis point. What does it feel like in the mind and body when a person realizes that their familiar strength, the grit, the strategy, the force, will is no longer sufficient to challenge they're facing?
It's pretty much wherever we hit trials at. So for me, it was on the brink of divorce in that particular regard. So when I went from control to surrender, I was trying to control a marriage. I was trying to control family. I was trying to control business. I was trying to control entrepreneurial stuff, and including working at jobs and going to school. All those things were happening when I got out of active duty in 2012, and I was trying to grind it out and trying to hold everything by the grit until about 2014. So what it felt like is everything was collapsing in front of me, from my job, from my marriage, to my family, to everything on that day. So what does it mean? That you're hitting rock bottom, and because you tried to hold on to everything in your hands.
Hmm. Interesting. Mr. Daniel, from control to surrender. Is surrender the opposite of strength, or is it a different, more nuanced kind of strength altogether? How do you help people reframe it?
Surrender gets messed up all the time. We think about it in war. We think about it in like certain parts of life that we just say, "Hey, I surrender it," and we're usually letting go. But the thing is that when we try to hold everything in our hands, we never can receive anything in our hands. So this comes from a Christian-based model. So if you're looking at from the secular-based world, surrender looks scary. But when you look at with Christ, God in your life, it's going over and opening up your hands to let him give you the resources and the gifts and the blessing. Because I can only do so much as a human. He is infinite and I am finite. So when you go over and you let go, you're allowing him to allow his unique and unlimited blessings come in your life, and to be able to get that freedom. Because when you try to control it, if you hold hands like this for a long time and you just keep squeezing, it's just going to go hurt. And when you finally let go, it's going to be painful. So you might as well stop squeezing your fist and go over and let go. So what it looks like practically is continually giving that to God and knowing that it's not what you do, it's what he has for you. So that's what I would say it looks like.
Mr. Daniel, what are the common subtle early warnings that our control strategies are starting to fail us? The mounting exhaustion, the brittle frustration, and that we often ignore until full crisis forces our hand.
I would think the warning signs, if I had to go back into my life, was not listening to wisdom. That's the first part. Going over and doing it all yourself when your spouse, your kids, your coworkers, whoever you're with, they're telling you different directions, and you're the one that's thinking, it's like, I need to figure it out. I need to go handle it. I need to do this. That's where I think the early warning signs are in that particular regard. And then going on from there is when you start seeing system failures, not just one thing that just hits, but a ton of things that are in there. So if you're failing, let's say at the job, that might be just a job, workplace conflict, personality. Maybe you're in the wrong job, but when you start seeing stuff from the prayer room to the boardroom going over and failing, like you're not having intimacy with your spouse, your kids, you're very estranged. The job, you're using it to stabilize everything, but that thing is holding in shambles. That's why I would say it goes from early onset to like you're about to collapse. Is that when those things and you're just piecemealing the day, when you're just waking up and you're just doing it because you're conscious, but you're not consciously praying, not getting advice, not getting wisdom, and you're just trying to keep fixing up the shore. It's kind of like if a house breaks down. You know, you don't do everything as a husband or as a wife going over and trying to fix things in the house. If the sink and the tub and the kitchen was all on fire, you're not like, I'm going to keep fixing it. But we do that with our lives. We're like, oh, this is happening at work. I'm going to go fix. Oh, I'm having this financial problem. Oh, I'm having this relationship problem. I will just keep fixing, 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 fixing. That's control, is when you try to fix everything and all you are is just putting up paper mache on that wall and it's not holding.
Hmm, certainly. And let's talk about the anatomy of control, what we are really protecting. Beneath the desire for control is often a deep fear. Is it ultimately a fear of chaos or irrelevance, of pain, or of our fundamental vulnerability? What is the control trying to guarantee that life simply cannot guarantee?
I think regarding everything, we came in this life and we had nothing. And then once we acquired those things, we want to hold on to those things. And those things might not be best. So I think it's all those things. We're scared of vulnerability and transparency. We're scared of relying on a God because we've seen on how the world is messed up and broken. We have a lot of things that we're doing. It's all facade because I can't control how long I'm going to breathe. I can't control how long I'm going to live. I can't control if a job's going to keep me or not. I can't control if my spouse is going to keep me. I can't control if my kids are going to have a relationship with me. I can steward those things. Obviously, punching someone in the face is not a good thing for a relationship. You know, that's the obvious. But I can't control the rest of those things on the day to day. I can love that person and they can hate me. I can hate that person and they weirdly love me. So all I can do is just steward. And I think that's what the hands open is that you can steward what is in there. So I would say it's all those things that you mentioned, is that we have fear, it's scary. We feel like we're becoming naked and vulnerable, metaphorically speaking, when we let go of control. And then the fear of the unknown. That's, I think, probably the biggest thing because we don't know what's next steps. Even my life, I don't know what's next steps. I thought I was going to be in a job with mental health coaching, and that has changed just in the past couple days. Now I don't know where the next steps are. I know where I want to be, but I don't know where I'm going to be, and I just have to steward each day.
Yes, interesting, Mr. Daniel. In our culture, self control is a supreme virtue. How does it make to move toward surrender feel not just difficult, but like a moral personal failure? How do we disentangle healthy agency from exhausting over control?
You got some really in-depth questions that really challenging my brain. So how would I go over and explain that? I've seen it
Thank you.
as I've seen it as self-control is more about us arranging the deck chairs. So how do I not burn myself out in that regard? I have to have a prayer life. I have to have a relationship with God because naturally we're going to go towards self-control. We're literally going to go down that road. And especially with a military background, we tend to want to take control of missions and things and deployments and uh, temporary duties, and I move from place to place and I have to be that hero. And the thing of it is that at the end of the day, all those things are never controlled by me in the first place. I didn't choose where I was going on deployments. I didn't choose where I was going to remove. I might have had a say, but I really didn't do that. So I think it's one of those things is that we have to get that relationship with God to first go over and realize like I don't need to have self control. The only self control I'm supposed to have is in the spirit. Like If someone's getting me angry, I shouldn't be punching them in the face. That's self control. If I'm going over and someone gets me mad, I don't need to rip their head off. That's the self control that's the most important, is of your spirit, not allowing your flesh to deal with things. Like if you ever get frustrated with tech and you want to bang the mouse, is that self control? Not really. But the rest of that stuff that we're trying to self control, like where we go and what we do and everything else, all we can do is just steward the day. So if we learn more that we're stewards compared to controlling things, then it'll become a lot more freeing in that particular regard. Just like this podcast. I'm gracious to be able to do this today, but the one that I had scheduled for 10:30, I had to let that go today because my wife is flying out tomorrow. So I had to let that go, even though it was a planned thing. Real true surrender is letting go things that you know it's not going to be good for you. I was able to reschedule, but that's giving the go from self control to surrender.
The surrender process, not positivity, but presence, Mr. Daniel. There's a crucial distinction between surrender and resignation. One is a passive, I give up, and the other is active and open, I stop fighting reality. What are the markers of the critical difference?
The critical difference of surrender in this particular regard, again, is all focused in God. When you just surrender, just give up, passivity, it's just like, all right, I need to feed myself. I'm not going to do that anymore. Or, hey, I'm going to go stop breathing. That's a surrender that's never called. The surrender is saying there's someone sovereign that is in control, and that person knows better than thee, better than me, and I'm giving it to him. In the military, we learn that all the time. It's like we have military ranks. I got up to the middle management part of the military, and there was things I wanted to go over and do, and things and processes I wanted to do, and even projects I wanted to work on. But that commander is kind of like that sovereign authority on earth, and they say, this is what I want you to do, even though I think I might have a better idea. I go over and I have to listen to that sovereignty. So you first have to acknowledge, in this part of surrender, is that there's sovereignty, someone bigger, someone more powerful, someone more omnipotent, omnipresent, which we believe in God, Jesus, is having that. And then going over and saying, your will is more important than my will. It's the same thing with the commander. I had arguments with my last commander on a regular basis. I didn't agree with there, but now I'm removed from her. She really had some wisdom on the second and third and fourth order effects when decisions were made. I was only thinking one layer deep. She was thinking two, three, four, 5 layers deep. She had more span and more scope. She had more control in that particular regard. And if I didn't learn to let it go, we probably would have like got into fisticuffs in that particular regard. So a surrender is having that understanding that there's a sovereign authority that knows and loves you, knows the bigger picture more than you do, and knows that it is for your infinite good. If you look at it that you can't trust that sovereign authority, you're always going to go back to control because you think you understand it better. It's like when we get caught in traffic and we get mad. I can't control that. I'm wasting my time having control, being frustrated at the wheel. We all do it across the world. I can't control it. All I can do is be a best steward. If I know there's going to be traffic, I should be leaving 15 to 30 minutes early, but be prepared of that particular situation happening. So that's what I would believe, is that we would have to understand that sovereignty. And I think if you don't understand it from a godly sovereignty, you won't be able to surrender correctly. You'll either give up or you'll just clench it back up.
Many describe a profound sense of relief and suspiciousness after surrendering. What does the energy that was tied up in controlling go? What becomes newly possible in the mental and emotional space, Mr. Daniel?
I think it becomes a lot of things. Like for me, I was always super tense. I was always angry. I was called the ranting dad. It was really difficult to go over and to manage things. I was just stressed and always trying to figure out everything, like planning from notebooks and stickies and other things, trying to go over and to manage so much stuff. So your cortisone over time will go down immensely. It's kind of like the same thing that happens in intimacy. When we, husband and wives, are together and we're physically intimate, they say men's cortisol goes down roughly about 70%. Surrender holistically, going over and giving it to that sovereignty, giving it to God through Christ, goes over and just gives you clarity in mind, clarity in body, less likely to have heart attacks. I can't quote this, to anecdotally, but I'm just saying for my life, it's a lot less stressful in 2026 than it was in 2014 on the brink of divorce. I don't have that anger as much as I used to. And a lot of us men struggle with that specifically in that particular, especially us military men, because we're so used to control. And when we hold it, we're holding that stress, we're holding that cortisone. So you're able to then listen also to those people that give you wisdom, godly inspiration, maybe spiritual downloads, going over maybe that next great idea, knowing when to stop, knowing when to go, knowing when to relax. A lot of us men don't know how to relax either, especially as military men. You'll be able to relax. PTSD is like post traumatic stress disorder, and just that alone, you're still holding control of even that moment that you went through. And it doesn't matter if you're a civilian or a patriot or a military person. If you've gone through that type of stress, your body's just holding on to control because you don't understand it. When you're going through therapy, you're learning to actually give it to God and let it go. So when
Mm.
we do that, we become better holistically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, practically, and everything else. Because if we don't, we're just living as little stress balls waiting to explode.
Very well said, Mr. Daniel. Very well said indeed. The mind loves to resist control. What are the common traps and backslides after moments of surrender? How do we meet those with compassion instead of mere control?
Well, the first things first, it's always going to be releasing on a regular basis. The fists are naturally going to clench. That's what happens. The body just goes back to what it is. So it's kind of like physical therapy in a sense. When I broke my finger, for example, you can see the gap right there. It works. It's functional. I can even do a one hand clap for you. But it took time to go over and rebuild that strength. And I had to build it in a new way. And surrender is like a muscle. You're having to continually reopen the hands and not to beat yourself up like, I didn't go surrender again. Well, that's control. Even saying that, you know, beating yourself up and going and saying, I'm going to do better. I'm going to shore the grade. I'm going to surrender more. The sovereignty of God is going to help you go over and surrender more. Some key strategies to maybe not backslide as much is getting time in the Word, getting time in prayer, hanging out with your fellow brothers and sisters that are walking with God, getting that discipleship, learning how to build each other, one another up, and then going over and then getting that fellowship, the people that are energizing you and everything else. If those people that are still in the control stage, you can love those people in that control stage, but you shouldn't be having those as your five best friends. Tony Robbins and all the people say it's best. The five people that are your closest to, and I think Warren Buffett talks about it too, the five people that you're closest to, you will become. So if you have five people that are in control, holding their hands like this, and you're regularly hanging out with them and you're trying to live out this surrender life, then you're going to backslide back into control very easily. You know, if I hang out with people that smoke and I used to smoke, it's not wise to hang out with people that smoke, even though you might love those people. It's probably not wise to hang out with them and let them be your best friends. But the biggest thing is that God is sovereign, God is good, going over and having a balanced approach and not mentally flogging yourself. And if you see those things, you're saying those automatic negative tapes, like, hey, I'm going back to control again and everything else. Maybe you do a thought log and you go figure out where these thoughts come from. And then you figure out what emotions are tied to it. And then take that in prayer and say, Lord, I don't want to have these thoughts anymore. What thoughts can I replace? Because our thoughts are basically going to become our actions and become our results. We have feelings, thoughts, actions, and results. And when we stay in those same tapes, we'll go back to control. So we have to put new thoughts and new feelings in our lives to change those action results. So if you truly want to go surrender, You have to start changing those things of your life. It'll probably be friendships, what you go over and read, what you go over and entertain yourself, and those types of things. But as long as you're taking that 1% every day, you'll be better than what you were. I could always look at God and say, I'm not even close. And that's a good thing to understand because I need him. But at the end of the day, I can look at myself from 2014 on the brink of divorce and look at myself in 2026 and say, Lord, how much have you done in 12 years? 12 years. It's an amazing process. So I would just say prayer, time in the word, good people, connecting with those people on a regular basis, people that are walking in your past and you don't want to be there. It's probably don't make them your BFFs and just continue to go over and move a little bit forward each and every day.
Well said, Mr. Daniel. Also, tell us what is this empowering veteran transition and the meal spouse community transform?
Yeah, so Learn and Live started out of my brokenness because I was broken from the prayer room to the boardroom. This was a book that we did a while ago. My website needs to be a little bit updated, but we go over and we have each of the rooms. So the prayer room is about content, learning about Christ, and learning about surrender, specifically in the sense of the Christian mindset. My wife hosts that podcast, Rhythm of Grace. If you already are established and you don't need that and you're saying like, hey, I need to learn how to surrender more in the bedroom, having great intimacy and connection, then you would click on the bedroom, and we have a podcast that we're up and going called Rhythm of Intimacy. And then the living room and boardroom, that content will be set up eventually as separate podcasts, Rhythm of Generations and Rhythm of Growth. And it's learning how to surrender and live in a like mindedness of the living room is with your kids, Rhythm of Generations. And then Rhythm of Growth is boardroom, how to go over and do things in the business world in a godly way. Like going over for me, I had to literally surrender my job a couple days ago because there was the control in that place. It was such control, such control, such control. And I'm like, that's not of Christ. That is not of me. So I had to let that go. So even those types of stories we'll probably talk about eventually is like, hey, how do you let go when you're in a boardroom of control and the Lord's telling you to surrender, you know, thoughts, feelings, and sometimes even job. So those are the types of things that we cover in there. We also go over and do books. We also do we do workshops and we do seminars. We love to speak and teach to go help people to actually understand that surrender and to go through your mess. Because those are the two things we focus on in all those rooms: how to surrender and how to deal with your mess. Because there's a lot of stuff that comes out of that. Even when the brink of my divorce, and thank the Lord I didn't get divorced. I'm still married to the same woman almost 20 years now. Is that how do you deal with that stuff when you had that control that entire time? Because there was a lot of control out of me from 2006 to 2014. So how do you now deal with that mess mentally, emotionally, socially, spiritually, and sexually? So that's what the website's about. We're still building. It is a front and everything else. It's a good place to start. We'll continue to go build on there, and then you can find our content on the podcast that you want to go to based on the room.
Well, Mr. Daniel, to wrap up our discussion for today, for the listener who is exhausted by their own grip, who sense their strength is not enough, but is terrified to let go, what is one small, safe invitation you would offer them to experiment with surrender today?
I would say if you don't understand about surrender and this is just confusing to you and overwhelming, then I would look at the book Elements of Surrender by my wife, Michelle Faust. That's going to help you to start to walk that journey because even you getting the knowledge of what surrender looks like is going to be key. So you can find that on your favorite bookstore around the world, Elements of Surrender, Michelle Faust.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Daniel Faust because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering advocacy like this to rise. So, Mr. Daniel, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Have a blessed day.
Monica, people, see you soon.